Brian Dubs. Brian W says, I love words, so I'd like to hear your opinions about word selections from your audience. I have a list of Harry Mack words in my notes on my phone. Hell yeah. Hopefully I get to do them justice at some point. I believe there's a sweet spot, a Goldilocks zone, between simple words and super rare words that require a definition. I'd love to hear you speak on this topic. Please and thank you for all your content. It's therapeutic and inspiring. Much love. Thank you so much, Brian. Appreciate you. Thanks for being here. And great question. Yes. I also agree that there is a sweet spot or a Goldilocks zone, as you put it. I love that. I think the sweet spot often is achieved through balance. Because a simple word can evoke a beautiful freestyle, it's all about how you free associate and how you sort of expand on that word and sort of explode it out into a universe of ideas. The simplest word could lead to the most epic freestyle. And that's one thing that I want to challenge myself with more is like going back to some of these words that I kind of have almost on my like personal like do not accept list because they've been said so many times, like shoes. Why? Why should shoes be ruled out? It's not like I've rapped everything that could possibly be rapped about shoes. I've only really attacked it from like a couple different angles. Like, why couldn't it just be the most epic verse about walking in somebody else's shoes, for example? Mm-hmm. And that's limitless, and I've never done that. So there's that. The simplest word is almost infinite in how many different ways it can go as long as you're willing to expand your mind. And I say this to myself because I could definitely dig deeper on some of these supposedly played out words. And then on the other hand, super complicated words can be awesome, but if there's too many of them, it becomes kind of a different game that's less interesting to me. To me, the game, I'm big on like staying true to what I consider the game that I'm playing, and that morphs and changes a bit over time, but it also kind of always stays the same. There's this feeling that I'm going for. What I'm interested in is freestyling, obviously. I'm interested in improvising, and I'm interested in trying to create something that is like poetically awesome in real time. But if it becomes a little too much about trying to hold in my memory a whole bunch of crazy, like niched down, like medical terms or words that I've never heard of in my life, and I'm just really trying to just like use mnemonic devices to like remember the syllables in order, and it's almost like a puzzle that has nothing to do with the freestyling, then that's where I kind of become less interested. I'm like, okay, this is a game for somebody else. This is a game for somebody doing like a memory challenge, and that's awesome. And memory is a huge part of what I do. So don't get me wrong. I do love the challenge of remembering all the words. I really do. But then it tips. There's a point where it kind of like tips over into something else. And it can just be kind of like, this is actually getting in the way of the creativity a little bit. I don't ever want it to get in the way of the creativity where it's like, all I can hope to do is remember the words. And that's taking up so much of my mental bandwidth that I'm not really getting into flow state. I think that's really what it is it can kind of break the flow state a little bit for me. So usually it's a balance, like one or two really unique words that are challenging and complicated is great. I can probably hold on to those. And then balancing that out with a few kind of simpler words is probably going to help us hit that sweet spot and that Goldilocks zone that you're speaking about. So I completely agree with you, man. I completely agree with you. And I want to challenge myself to go deeper on some of these simpler words and figure out how I can just take them to new places, because I know that I can. And I will say also about that, I think there's another interesting challenge. If somebody says shoes and I go into this whole extended narrative about walking in somebody else's shoes, that could theoretically be really beautiful and awesome. And it was like, holy shit, like that's a whole new direction for me. I would probably be very excited about it. And I imagine a lot of you who are watching this podcast, who are the diehard Mack fans, would also be excited about it. Like, wow, that's a whole new different flip on shoes. Like he didn't say, I'm earning checks like Nike and stripes like Adidas. I'm bringing a new balance every time that you see this, or whatever I've done in the past. The funny thing is, it might not connect very well with the live audience right in front of me. right? What might have connected best with them is the New Balance and the Adidas and the Nike. So there is this sort of entertainer showmanship element to what I do that also sometimes makes it a little bit harder to, in my mind anyway, a little bit harder to like go to whole new like unexpected terrain with these simple words because I don't always know if it's gonna hit, you know? Because like bar flips on like the obvious like shoe brands within that category are gonna hit, you know, and it's not gonna confuse anybody, and everyone's gonna be like, yeah, he killed shoes. He went off on those shoes. I kicked it hard like steel toes. I dropped the anvil on the sandal. You know what I'm saying? Like that will work. It'll be highly effective for the live audience. Whereas the other thing is almost more like I might lose the live audience a bit, but it might translate through video. So that also I think plays a role in this conversation a little bit.
It's interesting too. It's like, some of the longest ones have the most like niche definition, or so it's like you can use them, but it's such a specific medical term that like really it's not going to give you a great verse that we can all go along with.
Right.
So that's like sometimes it's just like, okay, like I could do this, but like the full song will suffer. But then on the other end, it's like the most simple ones are the most wide open, kind of like you're saying. Like I've seen you crush on stage. I can think of the for sure, or the as you put it in that song. Yeah. Or like I think we had like in Austin like once.
I think we had if too. If I don't, we've had if.
It
we
might
probably
have been
had
if.
Yeah, I think we had if in Austin, but we probably had it
you
too.
Just snap.
Yeah.
You snap off that. You start breaking down each letter and
exactly.
like pronunciations, and that's super cool to see.
Yeah, 100%. Because that word that means like fear of long words, it's kind of like a gimmick word. Like I don't think it's a real word. Like when you Google like longest words, one of them that comes up is this word that's really long that like the definition is fear of long words. And it might technically be in the dictionary, I don't know, or in some editions of the dictionary. I'm not saying it's like totally fake, like it's like it's a conspiracy or some shit. But it's kind of a joke word, you know, like, and so there's only so much you can do with it. And the reason I say that it becomes a different game that's less interesting to me is because at that point it's just like people are just listening, waiting for me to say that word. And then as soon as I say it, it's like ding, 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 he did it, you know? Whereas to me, that's never been what's interesting, you know? Like I would never describe what I do as like, oh yeah, like this guy, any word you can think of, he'll say it at some point in his rap. Like that's not what's cool about it. It's more like, yeah, people give me random suggestions and then I use those as inspiration to create freestyles. That's what's fun to me anyway. That's what gets me juiced up creatively. If it was just like, I'm just going to rap and then at some point I'll say whatever word you say and they're like, okay, 10 points for that one, 20 points for that one. He got them all. And I understand, because that is part of it. Like I do say the words, you know, and we have the words on the screen and we put a check mark sometimes or change the color. Or we highlight the fact that I'm using the word. So I totally get it. It's not like I'm baffled as to how some people latch onto that part a little more than the other parts. Totally get it. And there's nothing wrong with it and it's all good. But just for me creatively, I like to expand, you know, and I like the fact that any word, simple or complex, could birth a really amazing freestyle. Sometimes the combination of two simple words could lead to something as well. You know, putting two words together can birth an idea. There was one, I can't remember what it was, but it had something to do with fish at McDonald's with those three girls in the back of that football stadium, man, in Atlanta.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So anyway, I can't remember what it was, but yeah, man, great question here from Brian.
Yeah.
About word selection. And hey, Brian, I hope at some point I get to hear the words you have in your notes app. I'm sure they are juicy and right in that Goldilocks zone. So
I see that a lot. People are like ready just in case it happens to be a Gorilla bars like in your city ever. Like people are like, I've got them ready, man, like locked and loaded.
I know. It's crazy. It is very common. Yeah, a common comment as well. Like, yeah, I got my words ready. So yeah.